In Russia, the Engels 2 military airfield in the Saratov region is on fire following a drone attack. Enemy strategic aviation, which carries out missile strikes on Ukraine, is based there. Eyewitnesses are posting footage showing a fire and hearing explosions, and local social media channels are reporting that drones may have hit one of the enemy's Tu-95 bombers, which is a carrier of cruise missiles. The drone attack on the region was confirmed by the regional governor. Explosions were also heard in the Moscow region tonight. In Pavlovsky Posad, drone debris fell on shops due to the operation of enemy air defense. Engels 2 strikes on the airfield. There is no satellite confirmation yet to see exactly what was hit there, so as not to rely solely on eyewitnesses. So I will ask in this vein, in principle, the airfield is of strategic importance and it is within our reach. Can we say that it is becoming unviable for the Russians to use their strategic aviation?
The consequences of our impact led to them starting to disperse long-range aviation aircraft both to the east and to the north, but some portion still remains. And as long as they continue to use this airfield to launch strikes from aircraft with Kh-101 missiles, for example, and other weapons, then it will be a target for us, for our assets. And various options are being found and sought. We remember and we conducted appropriate operations like Webb and, well, others. And this is important. In terms of assets, primarily these are long-range drones, but let's keep in mind that gradually more powerful and high-speed strike weapons will be included. I mean, first and foremost, ballistics.
In the temporarily occupied territories of the Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions, a total blackout occurred last night. The power went out after a drone attack on the Luhansk thermal power plant in the city of Shastia. This was reported by locals on social media. The published photos show flames engulfing the station. Subsequently, numerous posts about power outages began to appear. In particular, Donetsk was left without electricity. At the same time, there was no information from the occupation authorities. The Russian army is losing people faster than the Kremlin can recruit them, and the contract campaign is no longer covering the losses at the front. According to the GUR, Main Directorate of Intelligence, since the beginning of the year, the Russian Federation has lost about 240,000 soldiers, while having recruited fewer than 232,000 under contract. So Moscow is actively preparing a new wave of mobilization, albeit covertly. Victoria Yarishko found out the details.
Putin plans to mobilize 600,000 new occupiers, 300,000 by the end of this year and the same amount next year. These are the findings of Ukrainian intelligence. Although the Russian authorities publicly deny preparations for a new draft,
we believe that mobilization will not be announced in central cities. But I don't think they will be able to hide it very well. They are planning for this to be a kind of peripheral mobilization. Their desire today is for an additional 300,000 for 2026, plus more for 2027.
Russia's preparation for mobilization could have been one of the reasons for the visit to Moscow by CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Western media write, suggesting that the American warned the Kremlin against threats to NATO countries. After all, it is precisely for provocations in Europe that Putin may use the mobilized troops. And of course, for the war in Ukraine.
In order to fulfill the tasks they have set out there, the Napoleonic plans to capture the Donetsk region by the end of this year, they lack the resources.
So the Kremlin wants to recruit convicts even more actively. They are even changing legislation for this purpose. Now, not only murderers and robbers will be sent to the front, but also arms and drug smugglers, nuclear material thieves, and other criminals. And the hunt for the rest of the Russians, although unofficial, is already in full swing.
They are starting to send quotas to state-owned enterprises regarding how many people must sign a contract. If they don't sign, then the state enterprise, well, the management starts having problems. Quotas are distributed in the same way to large or even medium-sized private enterprises as well.
They are also trying to lure people into the army with money because propaganda is no longer yielding the desired results.
The amount of financial reward is increasing. On average, as of today, it amounts to $21,500 just for signing the contract. The maximum was $60,000. That's in dollars. When a person signs a contract at the expense of the local budget, which pays extra to show Putin that everything is fine there and they have many volunteers.
Although in reality, there aren't enough volunteers among the 140 million Russians even to compensate for the losses at the front. Here are the intelligence figures. Since the beginning of the year, Russia's irreversible losses amount to 140,000 people and in total almost 250,000. And during this time, about 230,000 Russians have signed contracts.
At the very least, 1,000, 1,500, maybe up to 2,000 Russians per day cannot currently compensate for what they are losing at the front and what they want to recruit based on monthly totals.
So Putin cannot do without a new draft. Although in reality, covert mobilization has been ongoing in Russia for several years now and has become significantly more aggressive. Over the last month and a half, residents of nearly 20 regions of the Russian Federation have filed complaints with human rights activists regarding illegal detentions, beatings, and coercion into signing military contracts. Lawyers say that pressure is most often applied to people with alcohol or legal problems, as well as to single men in remote areas.
This will all be felt in big cities too, because they will move on to the big cities right after the so-called elections. Then Russians will feel it properly.
During the full-scale war, Russia has announced an official wave of mobilization only once in the fall of 2022. Putin will most likely make a decision regarding a new one after the pseudo-elections to the State Duma on September 20th. Victoria Yarishko, We Are Ukraine, United News Marathon.
Meanwhile, Russia continues to recruit foreigners to participate in the war against Ukraine. Our intelligence has obtained documents for at least 8 Indonesian citizens whom the Russians recruited for their army. They were promised high payments, citizenship, and supposedly non-combat work, but upon arrival in Russia, they were sent to the front line. According to intelligence, the Kremlin is trying to compensate for its troop losses and avoid a new mobilization within the country. Previously, Moscow, by the way, had already used a similar scheme to recruit citizens of Nepal, Cuba, Kenya, and India. How large and important is the share of these foreign soldiers for the Russian army? Well, because right now there is information about 8, but 8 don't really change the situation for the overall grouping.
Undoubtedly. Well, the number and the majority, that's just an example. And it is important for them due to the fact that for this period, until Putin can implement his mobilization plans earlier than, say, September 20th, when the Duma elections end, because the situation there has worsened significantly, ratings have fallen, and he is generally afraid of social unrest. And because of that, it means the mobilization plans are formed, but they are not being put into action. Moreover, the propaganda team there, led by Medvedev and others, is saying that this is our Ukrainian propaganda, and they have no intention of carrying out mobilization at all. In connection with this, and the losses on the front lines are high, look, it means they are looking for a way out, including by recruiting foreigners from anywhere, because there is quick training, and then they are thrown into battle. And this term is not used for nothing. They are essentially making meat out of these people, or many of them are being deceived. And separately, it means essentially this is what is happening. And besides that, one must imagine that their propaganda, well, is Goebbels style. They are taking the best traditions from there. They are deceiving not only their own deep-seated representatives of the people, but foreigners, and foreigners even more so. For them, it's even better because after they die, there are fewer expenses for them later. That's why they are searching all over the world to get more. Although they don't succeed in large numbers, this kind of work is still being carried out by them.